Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Folks, welcome to Paranormal Karen. One of your favorites, what everybody loves.
Is that true, or are you just saying that?
No. I have a nice, you and Jessa and Jeff Thill are always asked for. That's why I cannot bother you enough. And I really think, especially the Twitter feed, I think we do have to think about a comedy show out on the road together or something. I'm always getting Ryan Singer and you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a really good idea.
Something has to happen.
Yeah.
Hi. And I'm at Ryan's and his roommate came in his Everlast shirt.
Yeah,
which is what a girl wants to see when she's in bed with a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, at one point, you didn't realize there was anyone else here, and I think you thought we were having some real, activity.
You and I were talking, and there's just all I can see is 4 inches of a hallway, and it was all black, and it stayed all black, and he almost floated by, and I was like, what, is someone home? But today, we're actually going to kind of talk, we got a serious topic today.
Oh, that's right. We're doing some serious, because both you and I think, very recently have been confronted with this. Yeah.
And before we get into that, I have a question for you. Have you been to this place in Burbank called the Crooked Path?
Yes, I was just there 2 days ago. I was actually there 2 days in a row, just this week.
Have you ever talked to anybody there on your podcast?
I just interviewed Sal, who runs the joint, for my magic podcast. Because I was actually, it's a funny story, because I went there with my friend Angela, who you know, and we went there and had an interview with Sal, and then he has an old lizard terrarium that he's no longer using, because he had a lizard, but it escaped or whatever, a month and a half, 2 months ago.
The lizard escaped?
The lizard escaped.
From a terrarium?
Yeah. And he had he had a wire top. He didn't, it was manufactured. It wasn't like the lid of the thing.
Okay.
So, and I was like, I've been really wanting to get a lizard. So I was shopping, looking for lizard stuff, and I was like, I have to get the home before I bring the lizard to it. And he's like, I'll give you all of this whole setup for $50.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, cool. So I came back, what was it, 2 days ago or yesterday? 2 days ago, I went back to go get it. And we were getting ready to move it, and he was showing me all the things inside of it and stuff. And I was like, there's something in here, dude. His lizard was inside of a hollow log the whole time, hiding or hibernating or whatever. And I was like, there's something in here. He goes, what? And I go, there's a lizard. And he goes, Adriana, or whatever her name was. He was so happy. It was his birthday, so it was a funny... But I guess the universe was telling me I wasn't supposed to get that lizard.
It's not time for a lizard, no.
Yeah. But I love that place.
But you're not a dog person, right? But
I love dogs, but I can't have them here.
Okay. So here's the only reason I know the Crooked Path. So Tommy stays at my place when I'm on the road sometimes, if he's working in LA. And, because I read tarot there, it's a very, there's a lot of friendly things trying to hang around. I have to cleanse a lot. And when Tommy comes, it's like Sonia, the animal communicator, said that my dog Courage, I know everyone, that's how it goes. I asked my dog Courage, I call Sonia. She says when Tommy gets there, it's like the bus pulls up and everybody's like, all right, we gotta go. And then I come home and my place smells like a whole bunch of stuff and it's quieter than it ever has been. So, and then I get there and a day later, it's all funky again. So I asked him, and he left me this oil that was dragon's blood and anise. So, of course, I spent about $100 on the internet trying to find it, can't find anything. And then he's like, I got it at the Crooked Path, and they mix it for me. I thought he said they mix it for me. And then I called the Crooked Path, and they were like, yeah, we have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, they have oils, right? I could go in and say I want that and that mixed, right?
Well, they've got everything, they've got all the different herbs and oils and things in there, yeah. So... they might not mix them up like smoothies for you, but I know Sal, he dresses candles and so there's custom ordered things for ritual, for magic work and
right,
lots
and
of
they
things
have some
that.
stuff put together. Well, I will tell you, this dragon's blood, I started diffusing it And the place got really quiet. Like, he was right. And then I spilt it on myself, and people went crazy for the smell. So I was like, well, I'm going to make it a perfume. Everybody lost their mind. And then...
I got to get some of that then for my diffuser.
In fact, I forgot to bring it over. But here's the thing. Courage has had lung problems for years, and that was it. It was the oils. So when you called me and said, he says that no more oils. And the minute I stopped, it was like his heart issues and everything cleared up. So his cough went away. So I literally have to diffuse when we're not in the room.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I don't know, but
So I shouldn't just be like going willy-nilly blindly into like diffusing a bunch of oil into my room.
I would. I do. My dog has a lot of lung problems and stuff. So unless you're dating someone with asthma, I wouldn't worry. Or you could do it like that. Does the same thing if you do it when you're not there. But he did dragon's blood and anise, but I want to do dragon's blood and vanilla. But it's such a powerful, like, I don't know. So yeah, do that in your room.
But if you've never been into the Crooked Path, it's great. It would be even great to like have a podcast studio in that place, or they've got a performance area too, where it could be used as a performance area. But they've got like a Reiki room upstairs. They've got a woman who does her Reiki work out of there.
I wonder if I should teach a tarot class there.
My friend Renee, I can't remember if you've met Renee. She used to live in the building, but she does her readings there. She works out of there. So they have psychics that work out of there as well.
Okay, I gotta go. And
it's right there in Burbank. It's really cool.
Maybe we should put up a show there. I might talk to them because I need a new home for my psychic stand-up show.
It'd be an interesting... I've got a couple leads on a place where that could be cool. There's a place called Black Sheep Burbank. It's like an art gallery in Burbank that focuses mostly on dark arts.
Oh.
It's funny because Aaron Goodwin has art on display there right now.
Really?
From Ghost Adventures, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
They're just these terrifying rabbits, like holding miniature human skeletons with like blood. It's like pretty. Like
my attachment, my first big scare was a puka that came to me looking like a rabbit.
Oh,
like
wow.
a man in a rabbit suit. I think and they, not to speak about anyone else's business, but they are haunted. They have troubles. And
yeah, well, it's funny because
I'm speaking out of turn with that.
Oh no, well,
I might be out of tune.
Well, yeah. It's funny because the gal who was there that day, she was telling me, I was like, "Oh, is this?" Because she was showing me like the first time I ever went there for this thing called Witchy Wednesdays. It's like a hangout from 1 to 5 on Wednesdays. They do.
Wow.
And this guy Zachariah kind of hosts it.
Such a great witch name.
Yeah, he's great. So I go there and she's showing me around all the different art and stuff, and she goes, "Oh yeah, and these are interesting. This guy, was here for some other opening of something, and then blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh wait, is this the guy from?" I'm like, "Aaron Goodwin, is that the guy from the Ghost Adventure show?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, it was really funny because I didn't know who he was." And we were talking, so I was like, "Oh, so what do you do for a living?" And he said, "I hunt demons."
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yeah. He can have that. You know what I mean? I'm not interested in hunting demons.
I know, and which is a great lead-in to what we're talking about today, because, in fact, it's why, if I ever get a show, I will try to hook Tommy into it no matter what. You know what I mean? So now we're talking, folks, just so that you know, this one's not too light today. We're talking about real fear and the real... maybe we can give you guys some insight if you're going into a haunted place without any protection running in. So you had quite an experience.
Yeah, I did. And actually it ties in with Tommy because Tommy and I, when I talked to Tommy the first time, the interesting part of the conversation, or one of the interesting parts, was about like diet and what are the foods and what are the things we're doing to either prevent ourselves or increase our ability to have like our intuition and our antenna up and those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And so before I went and did this documentary in Florida, I did a pretty good job of staying away from meat, especially red meat, refined sugars. I was off caffeine for the most part. I was letting myself have a little bit of coffee while I was there because I was so tired. It was like a rigorous schedule. Yeah. But so I was mostly doing vegetarian. I was trying to blast open my third eye, the pineal gland, and really increase the bandwidth of my intuition antenna. And so everybody else there was, living the good life,
drinking,
camping out, eating garbage, doing whatever they wanted. And I was just there, like, eating carrots and cheese and, like...
Well, I have to back him up. I think when I went vegan, my intuition spiked.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to it. I really believe there's something to it. There's, I shouldn't even reference it because I can't even remember exactly what it was. But there are people who purport that there's a connection between refined sugar and, like, scientifically proving that it really hinders intuition. Oh. And like chemically on, like, the chemical level of your body and, like, the studies they've done. But so I'm, like, all amped up when I get there, like, as far as
you're ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
And just a little mention to anyone that I hate Carl's Jr. and they just got a vegan. They got the Beyond Burger. Jeez, I will stop at every Carl's Jr. on the way home. It is unbelievably good. And I don't even miss meat. That is everybody. So vegan, you can do it. It's getting easier.
Okay. Have you ever...
Beyond Beef.
Have you ever just cooked it at home?
Yes.
The Beyond Burgers?
Yes.
And Del Taco's got the Impossible
same
burritos.
thing. I believe it's the same meat.
Okay, yeah.
Oh my God. There's no reason. Yeah, everybody should try it anyways because it's better than any. And they gave me the wrong thing once. When I looked at what the hamburger looked like, I was like, I could never eat that. And then I looked at it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's
so everyone try that and then tell Carl's Jr. to stop with this sexist marketing or you won't buy it again. But you can buy it again.
Yeah.
So you get there, you're all amped up, you're all ready to go.
So I'm all ready to go. And
you're doing ghost hunting, you're doing the documentary.
This has been sold to me as like, hey, we're going to the Skinwalker Ranch of the South.
Okay.
Which is UFO, orbs, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, ghosts, other creatures. And so I was like, hell yeah, dude, I'm in on this. And so Ed Brown is the guy who's organized the whole thing. It's his project. It's his documentary. He's got the In with the family, or the couple that lives there and everything. So he's been a Bigfoot researcher for years.
I've just been looking for a Skinwalker person, and I send out all these emails, and people don't answer.
Well, I don't know about his expertise in the Skinwalker area.
But this is a different one.
He's been up to the Skinwalker Ranch recently, which is an interesting story. And I'm not I don't know what to make of it because it involves me, but like I really don't understand what the story is.
You mean with the, we'll keep
with the
going
Skinwalker.
and see yeah.
I mean, I understand what the story is, but I don't understand how the people that they run into and like my connection to them. So anyway, I think there's a few of us on the research team. It's really mostly just me and this guy, Dan Lindholm, who's a Bigfoot researcher from the Pacific Northwest. So he came all the way down to Florida with his stepson, who was like running one of the cameras. And Ed's running the other camera. And then there's a security team of 3 armed guys. Mm-hmm. Because that was the rule. We had to have an armed guy with us at all time. Or an armed security guard. Well, because the property's not safe to be on by yourself.
Okay, so in other words, you might have a hunter come by?
No, a creature of some kind.
Okay. All right.
Or a wild animal. Also of some kind.
That's interesting. I was thinking about today. Go ahead.
Yeah. So these are the rules of the documentary. You can never be by yourself on the property without one of the armed guards, and you're never allowed to talk about this other research team on cam. Well, you can't give the specifics of a different research team that comes to the property regularly.
Okay.
You're not allowed to. You can refer to them as a research team, but that's about as far as you can go.
Okay. So they don't want credit? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. Okay, so you can't talk about who comes there.
Yeah,
normally.
you can't really talk about this other research team.
Got it. And that might be the
that should not be named.
Okay. I'll let that go. This is so paranormal.
Who has unfettered access to the property whenever they want. If
so
that
they
gives
could
you
come
any
and shoot you.
Kind of clue about what kind of research team that might be.
Okay, so this is so like
so I think you can figure that out.
Paranormal.
Yeah. So I think people listening can figure out who the research team is under the guise of they're allowed to come out there whenever they want. No one can stop them. You just can't talk about them, who they are. So, and also there's portals on the property, right, is one of the things.
Okay.
And, you hear all of this and you're a believer and you're like, and even those of us who believe in all of this stuff and, intellectually know it to be true, even if we've never experienced it firsthand, it still gives me pause sometimes, because we hear a lot of fantastical stories and, every once in a while you get the opportunity to vet them. Mm-hmm. Which isn't common. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go in with an open mind, and I believe this stuff is possible. And the people who live there, from what I've been told, they're very credible people and down-to-earth people, but I've never met them, blah, 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 blah. And so we get there, and I immediately realize these people they're just the most normal, lovely people in the world who live on this property. Excuse me, it's 30 acres and of rural Florida in the Panhandle. And they're just the sweetest people you'll ever meet. And they start telling all these stories about all the crazy, and they have casts of Bigfoot footprints that are huge. They have stories of orbs being summoned to where they're surrounded by orbs, and to the point where after a while they just kind of go inside because like the orbs are hanging around so long. There's
when you
so many
say summoned, they say come.
That people have summoned orbs there. Yeah.
Wow.
We tried to summon orbs there once, and it did not happen for us while we were there. But there's UFO sightings. There's potential abductions through hypnosis therapy have been realized. There are EVPs of disembodied voices in the house calling the dog when no one's home. Because there was weird stuff happening, so they set up a recorder in the home once because they're like, what's going on? I'm going to set up a recorder. While they were gone, you can hear someone calling their dog over.
Wow.
So I want to get in there and do like paranormal research, right? In the house. In the house. And also on the property. And apparently there's an old log cabin that's been like abandoned and just really run down, like neighboring the property that we're allowed to have access to, that an old suicide note apparently was found in, written in Spanish or something. So we go and we find that. We kind of debunked that. I don't think it was a suicide. We don't believe it was a suicide note, but there was like weird EVPs that I picked up in there while we were gone. Not even inside the cabin. There was weird, like, furniture moving inside. Anyway, so there's all kinds of crazy stuff happening on this property that we start to realize, these stories are legit, right? There's some good recordings of wood knocks while we slept in this room this place called the Sugar Shack, which is an old utility shed that was converted into a sleep space.
And, just by the way, Florida is just weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know there's something about places that are surrounded by water tend to draw serial killers. Like they all kind of go up and down the West Coast. There's something about water, and Florida is so consumed with water. It's just weird. Because
of like getting rid of bodies and stuff, or
I don't know. I think they're drawn to it, but I know I've read many things about how that there was the I-5 kill. All of them all kind of come towards the water, but Florida to me is it's even they have that Twitter account called Florida Man.
Oh yeah,
and Florida Woman, where they're just doing insane
crazy
things.
Stuff.
And so this doesn't surprise me that it's Florida. And,
yeah.
Yeah,
and it's the middle of nowhere, Florida, too. And it's like I didn't think my car was going to make it down the roads I had to take to get there at the end of once the GPS was kind of almost guesstimating where I was going. You know what I mean? So there's all this crazy stuff happening.
Last question.
Yeah.
Crocodiles, alligators, no?
No.
Okay, good. Because I can't. No. I need an armed guard for those.
Yeah.
Can't.
So, and I thought that the armed guard was a little bit of overkill kind of thing, you know what I mean? But it's like, this is a very like, we're going full paranormal. And it's like,
right.
And so, but then you hear the stories of grown men who are like ex-military or hunter types who have come out there looking for Bigfoot. And they'll have an experience, an encounter of some kind, whether sometimes it's just audible, and it'll reduce them to tears immediately, and they'll get off the property as quickly as they can, even when they have an assault rifle on them.
Wow.
And
that's the perfect, military men crying is the perfect place for a break for our sponsor.
Okay.
Who do tarot readers go for tarot readings? They go to Melissa Sonova at melissasonova.com. She gave me the best reading a couple of months ago that is still resonating and helping me out now. She is authentic and to the point. You loved her on the podcast. She is the no BS tarot reader. She also has a tarot class online right now. Check it out. Just watching the promo, you will see how much fun you are going to have while you learn. Also, check out out her book, which is always right beside me when I'm doing my readings, or my tarot card for me in the morning. It is called Kitchen Table Tarot, and you will love it. Melissa Cynova, that's MELISSACYNOVA. Check her out.
Okay, so it's a very complicated.
So yeah, so there's like I've been told, from what I was told, there's I think 5 or 6 men who that's happened to. If people are interested in the property before the documentary comes out, because I have no idea when it'll come out, and I know that they want to film some more because I was asked to go back to the property. I don't know if I will, but it's the first episode ever of Finding Bigfoot.
Oh, okay.
So that television show, Finding Bigfoot, the first episode is this property. And it's the only episode of that show where they only were on one property the whole time.
Wow.
Every other episode apparently has multiple locations where they go to be able to fill the episode. But that's the only other place where this property has ever been documented, and to some degree. So I keep kind of asking Carolyn that I want to, keep letting her know I want to do a paranormal investigation. It's Carolyn and Bill Bridges. That's their names, yeah. So Carolyn and Bill live there. And I keep letting Carolyn know I want to do a paranormal investigation in the house. And we're there for 5 days and 5 nights. And she keeps kind of being like, okay, yeah, we'll think about it. Yeah, that's probably fine. And because she comes from a long line of earth witches.
Okay, so she's in tune.
Yeah, so she practices magic, and she's got that place on lockdown.
I was going to say, that lends itself. I'm glad she knows. Yeah.
And she's also got what I believe to be one of the highest levels of psychokinetic abilities. I mean, rivaling that of Ted Owens, even, who was the guy who was the subject of Dr. Jeffrey Mishlev's book, PK Man.
So
the guy who was affecting
moving?
weather and things like that. Well, I mean, she's not allowed to touch the thermostat inside the house unless she has a rubber eraser. Because she's blown them up too much. She's blown up air conditioning compressors, a couple refrigerators. She's blown up a few microwaves over the years in the house. There's a story of her walking through a parking lot of a grocery store with Bill, and each time they walk by a car, the car alarm goes off. So stuff like that, and things where she's just a normal lady.
She just has that vibration around her.
And she doesn't know it. I mean,
she's not trying.
She's not trying, no, and she doesn't want this stuff. So she's just kind of like my talks with her. I think she's always been aware of it, and her and Bill have always been aware of it, but they've just kind of been like, this is a weird thing. Weird things happen around her.
Do you ever have stuff happen when you get really mad?
I don't know if I do. I'd have to really sit and think about that.
I know Tommy's had some experience with that. I have me and printers. I get mad and they.
The only time I've ever had like a big damage thing happen, I got so mad once on the telephone with like customer service for like the internet or something that my dog freaked out and knocked a glass of orange juice onto my laptop.
Oh, like stop it.
So it ruined my laptop, was toast after that. But I was just like so angry that the dog was freaking out. This was years ago when I had a dog. But
also the dog might have been thinking, if I ruin this will stop.
Yeah, who knows?
Or he loves orange juice. Okay, so she's very electric.
Right? And allegedly, there's a portal on the property that's studied by another research team. So we were out there trying to study it, where supposedly it's located. And then we set up trail cams and things like that around it. And then apparently there's a second portal on the property that she subconsciously created without even realizing it.
Oh, interesting.
That had, from what I've been told from her, that she's been told, she created this other portal on the property to have creatures come out of it to protect them from the creatures that are coming out of the other portal.
That makes sense to me, and I actually think I think there's a dragon in my house now.
Oh, really?
Well, mentally, yeah, and I think I have a guest coming on. I had a friend who said I was like, how do you not get stuff in here? And she said, I have just always seen an elephant marching around just protecting the house, a circle, circle, circle. And I was like, I need one of those. And it was either octopus or a dragon. and the octopus was very lazy. But it's
You know what they say about those octopi?
Yeah, it's actually just a mental exercise, and I guess I see it through a dragon where it circles and it goes the outline and then it blows the white light in the middle. So, but I really do think there's something to that she let something in to help her out.
Yeah, and I don't doubt it for a second after like spending time with her. Because it's the wonderful thing about like anybody is that if you just hang around somebody and don't talk, usually, they'll just keep talking. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to not talk as much as possible because I knew I only had 5 days out there.
Which is also a good hint for my podcast.
Yeah.
But I can't let a joke go by. I can't let a dragon or a joke go by.
This is your show. You're supposed to do your show the way you want.
Okay. So she's got the second
So I just kind of like sit there and listen whenever I'm around her. And she'll just keep talking. She's got this southern, she was born in like southern Alabama. So like, even though my name is Ryan, like I was always Ron. So like my name was Ron, Ron, I'm going to tell you, so things like that. Anyway, so I convinced her that, I don't convince her, but, I keep letting her know I want to do the paranormal investigation. And then one day, I think it's the night of the third night we're there, Ed Brown tells me, he's like, oh, I talked to Carolyn. Carolyn said she wants you to do a paranormal investigation in the house.
Oh, good.
And he goes, but here's the thing, she wants you to do it alone.
Oh.
She said you have a different energy than the rest of everybody else. And I was like, oh, because I'm carrying crystals and everybody else has guns. You know what I mean?
Well,
and I'm also like off meat. I'm not like,
Right.
And so I like purposefully changed. I like purposely built my energy for this, to be there. And so I think that's what.
And I think you are of a high vibration, and you're not looking for the devil. And I bet she doesn't want to be there for her thing. You know what I mean? You know how when you're not supposed to do it in your own home? Yeah.
So so later that night, so the night of the fourth night we're there.
She also wants you to do the dishes.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, and sweep the floors. So the fourth night we're there, before sundown, I go back to the Sugar Shack, which is just down the driveway, about 150 yards from the house. And I'm going to get all my gear together. And it's still light out, and so it's not creepy, really. That's the first time I'm alone on the property by myself, is when I drive back, get my stuff just to walk up. And it's still light out. And everybody else is at this neighboring property where the night before we heard like some crazy stuff was going on. And like we got a thermal image of some creature, on Dan Butler, this guy who had one of those thermal scopes at night, because we were out there in the middle of the night in these woods, and we heard something, so we all ran after it, and then somebody got something on thermal scopes. They're going back to that spot to try to see if we can get anything else in that area while I'm going to come do the paranormal investigation. So I get my stuff together. I go up to the house. Carolyn's there. She's like, okay, I'm going to go outside and sit on the patio while you do your thing. Bill will come home from work, and then at that point, we'll probably just go into the bedroom. And so I was like, okay, fine. And I was surprised because she doesn't normally hang out outside by herself, especially after the sun goes down. She doesn't do that.
I'm glad she did, though. I'm already scared for you in the house.
And so I get into the house. I get everything set up. And the best part about the paranormal investigation that night was that I got to like have privacy and use the bathroom, because the Sugar Shack didn't have a bathroom. Oh. So whenever you had to use the bathroom, you had to like come up to the house. Oh. I mean, you could pee in the woods, but like, every once in a while, yeah, you got to, when you got to go number two.
You don't want to open.
So finally I was like, finally I have some privacy to, use the bathroom.
You don't want to open another portal while you're going to the bathroom.
Exactly. And so I get everything set up. We get most of the lights in the whole entire house turned off. And then Bill comes home, like before I can really get into it. So they just go into their bedroom and they're just kind of sequestered away while I've got the rest of the house to myself. So I'm going around doing all, and I actually got some interesting things. I mean, I turned them all over to Ed immediately so he could have all the material. But there's some, one time on the spirit box, I say, can you tell me why I'm here? And the spirit box says, because you set it up. Immediately after. And then I said, something along the lines of, what is it? Or who are you? Or what's going on here? And the voice from the spirit box says, I'm in you. Ooh. Which is pretty creepy, right?
Yeah.
But generally, I didn't get freaked out the whole time I was in there because I felt like no matter where I went in the house, I felt like this place is like locked up.
Somebody's already taken care of it.
Yeah. And so I'm like, this place is really locked down. She's got this place locked down, right? And so, I mean, I'm pulling cards. I'm trying, the dowsing rods. I even have dice with me. I'm trying to roll to see if I can get an effect in the way they roll. I've got the full spectrum camcorder going with night vision and, obviously digital recorders for EVPs and the spirit box. These are all the different things I'm trying to use. And so I'm in there for a couple hours by myself and nothing really. The only EMF reading I got in the whole place was by the Wi-Fi router, which is typical.
Okay.
And so then after a few hours or a couple hours or whatever it was, Bill and Carolyn come out because everybody's getting ready to come back from the neighboring property, come to the house, recap the day real quick, and then everybody's going to go to bed because it's almost midnight. And so it's like Wednesday, I think. So Bill and Carolyn come out, and her and we're just catching up, and I'm telling them about everything and telling them how funny. I'm like, I don't really get anything in here. I mean, I know you've heard voices and got things, but I'm not getting anything. And then she told me where she had seen a thing come around a corner every once in a while, but it wasn't, she never had the vibe that it was anything bad ever. It always felt nice. So I was like, yeah, I didn't get that when I was in here, And then she asked me, she goes, what about the EMF reader? Did you get any readings? I said, I only got one reading, and that was from the Wi-Fi router. And she goes, oh, but you didn't do the bedroom. And she's like, you want to do the bedroom real quick? Just bring the reader into the bedroom. I was like, okay, this is interesting. So we go into the bedroom, and I walk into the bedroom, and I just start going around immediately to everything. And I'm not getting a reading anywhere. And so after a few minutes, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really picking up anything. And keep in mind, the windows of every window on the house has these thick wooden shutters on the outside that are bolted closed as protection. So from things outside cannot get into the windows.
Okay, and
can't even touch the windows. They can't even see the windows.
Is that animals, or we don't know?
Creatures. Like we're talking Bigfoot and other.
Oh, okay.
Other
So it's that.
They have built those things on there because of the activity on their property. It's like creatures.
Wow. Can they open the windows and get fresh air?
I mean, they can. They'd have to go outside, unlock the shutters, or from the inside or whatever.
Okay.
But it's bolted. This place is bolted down, physically and energetically, right? So we go in the room, and then I don't get anything, and then I'm getting ready to leave, and she goes, "Oh, but you didn't try right here." And right by the door when I walked in to my right is the one spot I didn't get because I just kind of walked in and started going around. And there's a mirror on the wall. It's about 3 foot by 2 foot. And then there's a table with a glass domed battery powered clock.
Okay.
That's the only thing on the table. This little circular wooden end table. And I get a reading above the clock in front of the mirror. That's a pretty strong EMF reading. And I was like, this is interesting. I was like, you know what? It could be the clock because it's, got energy going through it. I'm about 2 feet above the clock and I'm getting a reading. So I'm like, I'm going to go to the other room 2 feet above the Wi-Fi router, as a comparison. I'll go to the Wi-Fi router and then I'll move up about 2 feet to see.
And folks, if you heard knocking, that's just background noise.
Yeah, that's not Bigfoot.
The clock isn't coming.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And so I go out there, I get a reading at the Wi-Fi router. I move up about 2 to 3 feet, and it goes to 0. So I go back into the room. I'm right above the clock. There's a reading. I move up 2 to 3 feet. There's still a reading on the meter. I go, okay, can you remove the clock for me, please? She removes the clock from the table. There's still a reading from where I'm at. And the table, it's interesting, it's just a circular wooden table with the pentacle engraved in it.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, is what it was. And I go, I look at Carolyn and I go, this is so weird. This is the only place in the whole house. Even the other electrical outlets, and maybe because we turned everything off, but I didn't get a reading anywhere except here. And she just looks at me and she smiles like, why are you smiling at me? She goes, that's where I do my prayers.
I thought she was,
And I was like, you do your prayers. She's like, this is where I do my magic. And I go, so I'm guessing this is facing east, And she goes, but yeah, that's my altar right there. And I go, oh, that's interesting. And then she says something really fascinating to me. And she goes, you notice that altar? There's nothing on there? It's empty? And I guess the clock moves. She'll move the clock away from when she's doing it. And I go, yeah. She goes, that's the thing about magic. Everything you need is inside you. And I was like, oh, because you see all these, a lot of people, a lot of witches and a lot of people who practice magic like to have very elaborate altars. And that, and if that works for them, that's fine. But I think her message here was like all the magic we have is inside of us.
I get very, I'm not that good with crystals or stuff like that. But you know what? Wasn't that the thing that was saying it's inside you? I'm inside you?
Oh, shit. I never thought about that.
Yeah, that was the thing telling you the same thing.
Oh, my God. I never thought of that. Wow.
I thought that's where you were going.
No. I wish that was where I was going. Wow, that's really interesting. I'm going to have to think about that.
So whatever was her magic. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's really cool. So anyway, after that, we're just in the kitchen having a good time, hanging out. Just the three of us. Bill, Carolyn, and myself.
Okay.
And I say something about, you're like really powerful. And she's like, oh, Ryan, I'm just trying to live my life. She's retired now. I used to train police dogs, was a first responder. And he's
she trained police dogs? Uh-huh. Is she all dogged up there? She got dogs all over?
They have one dog. They used to have many dogs, but they only have one now.
Is that the dogs aren't comfortable there, or?
No, that dog, there's a story about this dog, Ozzy. That,
okay.
Break your heart if I told you.
Okay, don't tell me.
I go, you know what? I'm going to go get my cards, my tarot cards, to talk about, and I'll show you just like how powerful you are. And she's like, or just what we're talking about here. Because my cards have been going crazy this whole trip.
You mean like the reading? They was
like I'll do like one card. I've been doing like the one card polls before we go out and do something. And like the first card I got was the Fool. So it was like going sequential. Like the deck was randomly going sequential.
The Fool's journey.
Yeah. And so it was really fascinating, right? So I go over to my deck and I realize when I go to pick up my deck is face up. Which is, I always have it face down whenever I put my cards down. And it's just the High Priestess card staring at me when I go pick up the deck. I was like, how funny is this?
Secrets and mysteries and yeah.
I was like, I go to get my cards to show you what I think about you or what I'm hearing, what I'm getting about you. And the High Priestess is just staring at me. And so... And we're talking about some other stuff, and she goes, I don't care what happens to me, but out here on this, people don't understand, don't believe the stories until they really experience them, unfortunately. It's not fun and games coming out here looking for these things. And she goes, but I would, but I'd die for anybody out here, And then as she was saying that, I like moved to the High Priestess card. It was the Death card. Right? So I'm like, this is... And so we start laughing, and I tell her what happened. I was like, and Bill's like, this is crazy, and we're having a good time. And then they show up. Ed and David Wright, who's also a Bigfoot researcher for years, show up at the house. They tell us about what happened at the neighboring property. And then Carolyn goes, oh, I want you to stay at the house tonight, Ron. I want you to sleep in the dream chamber. And I was like, what is the dream chamber? The dream chamber is one of the guest rooms in the house where people have the craziest dreams of their life in this particular room. Her daughter, 3.5 years earlier, woke up in the middle of the night from such a crazy dream that she packed her stuff, left, and even left some stuff behind. Has never been back to the house since. That's her daughter. So I was like, okay, I'll sleep in the dream chamber. Let me go get I have to go get my notebook.
Let me go get my dreams.
My dream journal and my toiletry bag. So after we're hanging out a little bit longer, Ed Brown, who was staying in the Sugar Shack with me, the whole time previously, the first 3 nights, we walk down the driveway, and it's 12:30 at night at this point. We're having a good time talking, no big deal. I go pick up my toiletry bag and my dream journal, and I'm heading back out of the Sugar Shack. And as I'm heading out, walking out the door onto the porch, Ed looks at me and he says, be careful. And I was like, I didn't say anything back other than, okay. But I thought, that's weird. Like, why is no? He hasn't told me to be careful this whole time. I'm just walking from the Sugar Shack, 150 yards up to the house. Big deal. So, and on the trail cam we had set up in front of the Sugar Shack, because the Sugar Shack apparently was the place of the highest activity on the whole property.
Okay. And to me, it always sounds like a a brothel when you say sugar
Well,
shack.
it's just that's
Nothing
for
fun,
whatever.
right?
Nothing. There's just a bed and a couple chairs in there. I would sleep in the bed. Ed would sleep in the reclining chair.
At least no prostitutes you can see.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay, hang on. We'll be right back. We're going to leave you at the sugar shack. Psychic medium and buddy of mine, Terry Huberman, is with me today. Terry, you've given me so many great readings and healings, and now you've got everything together in one package. Tell me about that.
I sure do. So this package has energy healings, readings, and coaching.
Coaching, that's the best. And people, they buy the package. You give them coaching once a week?
Yeah, so we meet online once a week, and in between, there's support as well.
And who would this be for?
This is really for folks who are in indecision, needing to get into their intuition because they're blocked or stuck. They need to move forward. And so we explore what the root causes of the problems are.
And helps them get out of their own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrific. And what can they expect from this?
Sure. So moving from anxiousness to confidence, accessing their freedom, joy, and security, and really being in alignment with themselves so they have that clear direction, so they know, aha, this is what I need to do next to reach my goals.
So now there's something that's free so people can talk
Yes.
to you and see if this is for them.
Yeah, absolutely. On my website, terryhuberman.com, there is a page where you can click, and it's the intuitive coaching package. And there is a button there that says schedule a free call. So you go ahead, schedule it. We'll get on a call and you can learn more about this program, and we'll see if this is a good fit for you or not.
See if there's chemistry.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's an odd date.
TerryHuberman.com, TerryHuberman. I highly recommend it, folks. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so now there's two small windows in the sugar shack. One of them has an old school AC unit, very loud, that's running constantly because it's summertime in Florida. So I walk out of the sugar shack. He says, "Be careful." I say, "Okay," thinking that's weird that he'd say that to me. So I have a flashlight, my notebook, and a toiletry bag under my right arm, and I'm holding the flashlight in my left arm. I walk off the patio or the little porch thing. He closes the door and locks it behind him. Thick wooden walls inside here, and I get about 7 steps to my left as I'm walking uphill this driveway. And then from about 30 yards behind me, so roughly 90 feet, I hear something screams at me.
Screams.
Some monster, some noise I've never heard in my entire life. And it's very loud, and it's directed. There's no doubt in my mind that it's directed at me. It's threatening me. And so I stop. I mean, because I'm in a really good mood at this point. I had a great time hanging out with Bill and Carolyn. Had a decent investigation. We were having a really good time up there. Ed and I were laughing and talking on the way down the driveway. And then 3 minutes later is when this happens. So I am not in a frame of mind of ready to be scared. I'm not feeling fear at all, right? And so then I stop. What the and then I turn my head back to my left to look, and all I see is darkness and woods and trees. And I didn't even shine the flashlight in that direction because I realized I don't want to. Do I even really want to see what is happening here? And then, this is all happening in an instant. And then instantly I realize I'm dead. I'm going to be killed by whatever this is. I have mortal fear for the first time in my entire life.
Okay.
And I realize that I'm the bottom of the food chain. Whatever that thing was is getting ready to kill me. I don't stand a chance. So I scream. I scream the word avalanche, and I scream the name Ed simultaneously, because avalanche was the code word from the security guard saying, if you yell the word avalanche, we have our fingers on the trigger of a gun. We know we have to shoot something.
Okay.
So only yell avalanche.
In this situation.
Never make a joke. Avalanche is out of bounds for jokes. You know what I mean? They told that to me specifically because I'm a comedian. And they're like, you do not joke with avalanche. If you yell avalanche, we're ready to kill something.
And they're in the sugar shack.
No, they are already back at the hotel.
Hotel? Wait.
The security guards are staying at a hotel in town this whole time.
Oh.
So, because they didn't realize anybody was going to be doing anything. Because it was
They thought
12.
the day was done.
The day was done. And so, and I didn't think twice about going down to pick up my notebook and come back to the house real quick. Just up and down the driveway.
And Ed sounds like the type of person that would have a gun too. Am I correct?
Ed does not have a gun on him.
Ed doesn't have a gun. I'm already disappointed.
So Ed's in the sugar shack.
Okay.
With the loud AC running and the thick walls. And I start to yell avalanche, but then I realize simultaneously that there is no avalanche to yell. I start to also at the same time yell Ed, but then I realize I don't want Ed hearing me yell his name, because if he comes out, he's even closer to the thing than I am. So I start yelling avalanche, I start yelling Ed, but then simultaneously stop myself from yelling both of those things. It's hard to explain, but this is all happening at once.
Yeah.
And so I start running as fast as I can up this driveway. And it's a sandy driveway and like dirt, and it's like pitch black. You can see like the floodlight on the porch of the house up through the trees. And so I finally get to the gate. I get the gate unlatched. I couldn't unlatch the gate, and I thought that was going to kill me, be the death of me. But halfway up, I somehow mustered the most courageous moment I've ever had in my entire life. Halfway up the driveway, as I'm running, I turn around to look to see if something's behind me. And I don't know how I could even do that. Like, even thinking back now, I don't know how I was even able to turn around and look. I just wanted to see how close to death I was. And luckily, I didn't see anything behind me. I get to the gate. I can't get it open at first. I finally get it open, and then I close it. I try to latch it closed because I'm thinking to myself, like, if you leave the gate open, you're inviting this thing in. And then also my mom's in my head, like, you're a guest at someone's house. Don't just leave their gate open. That's right. And so I'm like, I just got to fucking, I was going to close this gate. I get the gate closed. I run to the front door. Luckily, it's still unlocked. And I get in. Immediately I get in, and Carolyn and Bill are in bed by now. David Wright's still hanging out in the kitchen. I get in the door, I close it, I lock it as quickly as I can behind me. I'm shaking, and I look over, and he's standing in the kitchen.
Wait, who's in the kitchen?
David Wright.
Okay.
Who was like a close friend of Bill and Carolyn's, because he's been out there researching the property for years.
Okay.
So he's become close friends with them. So he was staying in the other guest room this whole time. And I'm just standing there in the kitchen, like frozen, and he's looking at me like, I feel like he's looking at a ghost when I look at him. That's what it looks like when he's looking at me. That's what I looked like. And he goes, "What happened to you?" And I just couldn't, at first I couldn't talk. I was like hyperventilating. I was shaking. I was starting to cry. And then I realized I was still standing close to the door, and then suddenly I get freaked out again. I'm like, I'm too close to the door. So I get my shoes off real quick, and I go into the kitchen, and I'm trying to explain to David what just happened, and he's like, oh my God. And then I try to recreate the noise that I heard. And it was so loud, I guess, that Carolyn comes out of the room, her bedroom, because she thought David was having a stroke or something. And she's like, David, what? And then she notices it's me. And instantly, the first thing she says is like, oh my God, you saw it. Wow. One of the creatures she's seen out there and had countless experiences with. And I said, I didn't see it, but I heard it. And then she just came over and hugged me. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I wish you didn't have to do that, Like, she gets it. You know what I mean? She understands. And David also has had an experience out there where him and another researcher heard something, and they immediately just went back to back with guns drawn and were freaking out.
I have the chills. This is something that there's so much that you can't even put into words. Like, for example, just being out in the woods alone. I hate that. And I was brought up in the woods, but this whole thing and some scream behind you, it was incomprehensible.
It was so terrifying. I just don't know how to, it's been 2.5 months. And it's only been about 3 or 4 nights I've been sleeping with the lights off in my room.
Wow.
So it's been like, 70 days of lights on in my room, sleeping.
And I'm going to let you finish the story, and then I have questions. And
Yeah. And so they kind of talk me off a ledge, the best they can. They stay up with me for a while. And it's maybe 1:30, 1:45 in the morning before everybody's like, we got to go to bed,
Right.
And so we did like a doors open tonight. Everybody's bedroom doors will be open tonight. And so I went into the bedroom and I turned every lamp on in the room. The headboard of the bed, and first of all, I told David, I was like, I can't sleep in the dream chamber.
Right, not tonight.
I was like, we got to switch rooms. I'm not sleeping in the dream chamber tonight. And I probably won't be sleeping anyway. So I get into the room. The headboard of the bed is right up against the window to the outside of the house, right? That has the wooden shutter on it. but still. And then right outside the window where I was sleeping, there's a wooden ramp, like a walkway, that then goes make a right-hand turn to the back of the house where they have an observation deck because the house is built on a hill. And down at the bottom of that hill, in the woods, in this small little clearing, is where the portal allegedly is, right? So I'm in a spot where the window that's right behind the headboard of my bed is that wooden ramp. So you'd have to walk up that ramp to get to the back porch where they've had like greasy handprints on their glass doors and things like that from creatures of some kind in the past. And what had happened was like some creature had gone and opened the grease trap on one of their grills and left a giant greasy handprint on the glass after eating the grease out of the thing, like a handprint, not a bear print. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So, I swear at like 2:15 in the morning or whatever it was, I swear I hear heavy footsteps outside the window, like behind me. And granted, I'm so messed up at this point.
You're already on high alert.
That every noise I hear is a monster. So, I don't sleep. I'm just frozen in bed until the sun come up at like 6:15 in the morning. I was awake until the sun was up. I did my best to try to like look at my phone, look at Instagram or something. Like, I don't know what, it was just anything I could do to try to take my mind off of it.
And there's I'm not going to tell my story tonight. I actually don't think I'm ready to tell my story for a while. But there is a fear of closing your eyes.
Yeah.
And people don't understand. Like, I've had a problem since I was a little kid. I have to sleep seeing the door. And for a long time, I couldn't live. I lived in a one bedroom, and I had to lock off the bedroom and sleep in the living room because I kept seeing people come in. I would have dreams of hands coming in the window, just this invasion. And even now, I almost always sleep on my right so I can see if anyone comes in the door. But when something like that happens, you can't close your eyes because you're sure when you open them, something's in that doorway.
Yeah. I can still, I still have not been able to go through the memory in my mind. Like, I can go up to the point where I walk off the porch of the Sugar Shack, I take a left, I take about 6 or 7 steps up the driveway, but I can't, like, if I close my eyes and try to remember what happened, I won't let myself hear the noise again.
Okay. So, and there's some questions that just stop me if you don't want to answer them. Because have you heard those? There's audio tapes of people communicating with Bigfoot on YouTube.
Well, yeah, there are.
Were they like that?
Well, here's where it gets even like more complicated, I guess. But the funny part is too, like, as far as like skeptical and like, well, can we prove that a man alone really experienced something, or was he doing this for the documentary? Blah blah blah. Right. The next day, one of the security guards, this guy Dan Butler, who's a wild game life warden up in Northern California, or in the Sacramento area, he knows how to track animals, all that kind of stuff. The next morning we come out with a camera and I'm retelling the story about what happened. And Dan Butler is looking for my footprints to see what story my tracks tell. And he goes, so we start at the beginning and he's like, okay, here I can see some footprints. I can see your footprints here. And then you stop here. It looks like there's a lot of weight here. So you kind of stop. Something has stopped you and like makes you turn because you can see the pivot of the foot, and then you can see, because of how deep the next footprints are, how fast and how far apart they are. So you can see that the footprints told the story of exactly what happened to me that night. And so that's what really solidified it for this one guy who was on the security detail, who was a cop and like trained SWAT teams and things like that, but he's a skeptic. And he's also, like, his expertise is in interrogation. So, like, throughout the whole trip, he would, like, break one person off. When we're all just kind of casually hanging out, he would sneakily, like, break people off to figure out what was true and what wasn't about what was going on, or past stories and things like that. And at the end of the most telling thing from Matt, who's this guy, the big skeptic, at the end of the week, he told me, he goes, I don't know what's going on out here, but I do know that nobody's lying about it.
Wow.
And he goes, but that doesn't mean I know what's going on. I just know that Bill and Carolyn are not lying because I put them through, like whether, they didn't realize it, but, he was
watching for tells from lying.
He was lie detecting the whole time we were there. And, which is good to have somebody like that on a team, as far as I'm concerned. But, so yeah, I slept in the house again the next night. I barely, and then left that day. That was the end of the trip. And then I slept I drove all the way, I got past Houston. That's how far I drove that first day, just to get away from Florida. And barely slept in the hotel because they put me on the first floor. I should have asked for the second or third floor because I was just like, oh, the window's right there, someone can get in. And, you feel like you're marked at that point. I felt like I was marked. I felt like whatever it was, even though I knew, like, intellectually, well, this creature isn't going to be following me. There's no reason for it to be following me.
No, but you have a connection to it now.
Yeah. So, I've started therapy. Like, I have a therapist now.
Wow.
That I've seen a few times or a couple times so far here in town, who's a PTSD, specializes in PTSD. I haven't gotten to that part of, I need therapy for lots of reasons. But
we all do.
But I told him, the first day I told him, well, I'm in here for 3 big things, and one of them is PTSD, and I'm not ready to tell you about that because I don't think you're ready to hear it yet. And I don't want to judge you and tell you what you're ready for or not, but just know that I have a paranormal podcast and I do paranormal investigations. And I'd like you to get to know me a little bit before I tell you that story. So I haven't gotten to that part of it with him yet. I would like to get hypnotized and walked through it, where you can do that and like helps alleviate the distress that comes through it, because you can like walk through it now currently, but like also in the past simultaneously and realize that you're okay. Because I am okay. It could have killed me if it wanted me dead. So I'm at UPARS, which is UFO Paranormal Research Society, this group I'm a part of here in town. It used to be MUFON, LA, the Mutual UFO Network. Once a month they have speakers come and give a talk at this Universalist church in Toluca Lake or something. It's right off Moore Park. It's in the valley. So the third Tuesday of every month, I go out there, Ed Brown's talking, and he's giving a talk about Bigfoot. And like, what is Bigfoot? Is Bigfoot flesh and blood, or is there a paranormal connection? Which I believe 100% that Bigfoot is paranormally connected now.
I do too.
And so he's giving a talk, and then like he's like playing some EVPs that I got, and then he also tells my story. And then at the end of telling my story, he says, and Ryan thinks Bigfoot is responsible for, the thing that screamed at him or yelled at him. He's like, I don't think so. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, we haven't talked about this, Ed. What's going on? Like, cause Ed and I talk still, and then he hits the next slide. He goes, I think it was this. And he hits the next slide and he brings up the photo of a rake. Have you seen the rake?
No.
The rake is spelled like rake, R-A-K-E. But I don't even know if you're listening to this, I don't even know if you want to look it up.
We're going to have to. I know you don't want to, but
no, but I can still look it up and see the picture of it. But because Carolyn had described, this is what she described. And if you're looking up a picture of the rake right now, you'll understand why she described it this way. At one point, she was telling Ed a story of, she's like, I saw the weirdest Bigfoot out here once. It was on all fours, which is not normal. It was hairless. And it was still big, probably 7-8 feet tall or whatever it was. She goes, but it was on all fours, acting weird, hairless and pale, and had big black eyes. And he said, that's not a Bigfoot, that's a rake. And no one really knows what these things are, other than they're terrifying looking.
Right.
And I'm glad I didn't see it. If it, in fact, was a rake, I'm so glad I didn't see it. Because I probably would have had a heart attack and died.
Right, because it wasn't in your consciousness yet.
Yeah,
That's
and like
scary.
I've seen pictures of the rake online, but I've always just thought it was like some kind of Slender Man type invention, But Carolyn claims she's seen one on their property, and I believe her to be, an honest person. she's not trying to get famous, doesn't want to, she loves when people come out there and visit because it makes her realize she's not crazy.
Right.
That she's experienced these things. And the big question people ask is, why do they still live there? Mm-hmm. Right? Why don't they get out of the property? Because this stuff is happening constantly. And the answer is this other research team has told her, it doesn't matter where you move,
it's about
these
her.
things will follow you. Exactly.
And also, I can't imagine coming home in the middle of the night.
No, never. Well, Bill is a big guy. And the theory is that since Bill's such a big guy, things are they're less likely to...
They're like a bear, the bigger the...
Yeah. And so, like, he hasn't experienced nearly as much as she has, but he's also still always at work. Because he still works.
You know what, too? There is something about they are maybe comfortable with her.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a give and take that is, you know what I mean? Like I
also think
do.
that they don't. This other research team might not want her to move. Because I think she might amplify the activity that's happening on the property, potentially, right? Because if, in fact, she has created a second portal subconsciously without realizing it, that leads me to believe that there are other people in this world who can create portals. Mm-hmm. And that some of them, it's likely, if we were to take that logical progression of this, believing this is true, there are some people who know how to do it.
Yeah, I believe.
And so if there are people who know how to create interdimensional portals with their mind, what are they doing with that power? And so now this is like this new reality that I have to walk around with in my head and try to integrate it into my quote unquote sanity of everyday life. So when we talk about I know you and I have conversations about showbiz and paranormal showbiz TV show ideas and things like that. And at some point you realize, if you truly believe in all of this stuff and once you understand true fear from these experiences that are harrowing and terrifying and forever change you in ways that you never really wanted to be changed, you realize this isn't just fun and games to sell dish soap to people. And, there is one thing I do believe in raising awareness for people and understanding these things are real and trying to help people understand that reality isn't everything that they've been sold, and trying to expand their horizons in that way. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to, going too far with it just to try to make an entertaining TV show, it's I have no interest in that.
Yeah, that's why I've always said, I hopefully if I ever get to do a show, I know you, jeez, how many people are coming out?
Yeah.
You're going to scare me to death. Oh my God. That is a dark hallway that I don't know. There's 50 rooms back there.
Yeah, there's multiple people back there.
Oh my God. You know what's so
right
funny?
at the end of a very scary story.
When you were telling this story too, I couldn't help but notice how scary everything in your apartment got. What's with those?
Yeah, the creepy dolls.
And then before none of this
creepy
was
dolls
scary,
and mannequins.
But your roommates are so quiet. They're like mice. Oh my God. Well, nice to meet you. People are just coming out of little cubby holes. Yes, and that's why, you're right. Let him have that title of demon hunter. I have no interest. I got just a little preview. I got involved with a private investigation that, and Tommy scolded me, and he was like, "Did they fill out the form?" And I was like, "I don't have the form. It's like an 8-page thing." That he's like, "You got to do this," and I was like, "I'll do it now." But I got there, and it started with, "Oh, here's something I forgot to tell you," which of course is the most horrifying story you will ever hear, where it's like, open with that. With that.
Really buried the lead.
It buried the lead. And then it ended with, "Why do I smell sulfur?" And it was like, because that's the demonic smell. And what happened in between there was just, I'll never forget that feeling. I'll never. And when you talk about this rake or this whatever it was, it's like when someday I'll tell my fairy story, which I have in a comedy story, but it's true, that I know that thing's around, and I literally am like, nope, not going there, because there's some sort of, it's like an energetic connection. Like when you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a friend, there's an energetic connection that it's, I think that night when Tommy was trying to calm me down, he said something about
You and I were on an investigation at the time, weren't we? Or no, that was a different
well,
night.
that was when I got news from the other one that his wife called me and said, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "What happened?" Because then and that
Don't
was
you, I hate when I get those messages
Right.
from like my friends who are like intuitive or psychic.
Right.
Like I'll get a text message like, "Are you good?" And I'll be
Yeah.
like, "Wait, what's about ready to happen to me?"
Never do that. But I had to take courage with me for a long time, but Tommy had said, this was the only thing I found comforting, is that demons were actually thought of as teachers, or there was some way they were said to be teachers, that they were here to teach us something. And I was like, okay. But that's
interesting.
When they ask me about a show now, it's you and Jeff. And you know what else breaks up a thing is laughter. That's why I have to have funny people with me when I do this. But yeah, you're right. He can have that title, Demon Hunter.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that.
No.
I mean, and good luck to.
Yeah.
And good luck, and I don't want anybody
need to test
to be
myself like
I don't
that.
want anybody to be possessed or to get sick or to have physical ailments because of it. So I hope that they do all the things, and I'm sure they have things that they do to take care of themselves. And that's.
I hope you hope.
Yeah, I hope so.
You hope.
I really do, because I mean, at the end of the day, they
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, because if you go looking for Bigfoot, you just might find it.
Yeah, and I did a great episode with Tim Rainer, I guess, if you want, that talked about Bigfoot, that I thought Bigfoot was like this vegetarian that walks by in waves. Oh no. Oh, Bigfoot's fast and
Well,
mean.
this was like a real crash course for me in like Bigfooting
And
or
crypto.
squatching, because I'd gone out a few times. I've been out in the field a few times with my buddy Alex, you know, our friend Alex Mistretta, and with Ed Brown and Claudia Ackley out in Lake Arrowhead. But I haven't spent a ton of time in the field, in the woods, looking for Bigfoot. And I'll never go into the woods again by myself without a gun.
Right.
And people are, some people might wonder, like, well, are you going to shoot Bigfoot? No, I just need one bullet, because the bullet is for me.
Oh, geez.
You know what I mean?
I don't want to hear that. But
if I'm confronted with like a monstrous situation in the woods like that, where I know that I am going to, it's not going to end well for me, I'm just going to take that and I'm going to have control over that situation. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, I'll go with you and I'll handle it.
Yeah, okay.
I'll handle that, okay? I'll take care of it.
Yeah, but I mean, the point is, like, basically that's just to say that, I will not be
terrorized.
I will not. Well, I'm not going to be. I take it very seriously.
Yeah.
As far as like, I won't be in the. I used to camp by myself in between gigs on the road.
You used to tell me that, and you used to go to haunted places alone, and I was always like, "What?"
Only if they were good, like the stories of good ghosts, like the Pierpont Inn where you dropped in.
Oh, yeah, that seemed okay.
That has like friendly ghosts where like a champagne glass would show up on like a celebration day or something like that. Like there was no, like, if there's like dark entities allegedly happening somewhere, I won't do that stuff alone.
Right, and you
Like
went to that inn alone, or they didn't tell you, and then they were like, "Hey, you're staying alone."
That was kind of sprung on me.
By the way, also, I'm okay with when I go ghost hunting and stuff. I'm always like I've taken Sonia a couple of places, but she's not into it, so she's very scared. And I was like, totally, you can sleep in my room without freaking out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's quite a. It almost makes the rest of the world seem small, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And
I think also a misconception for people if they're interested in going to do investigations, which I'm going to stick to haunted houses for a while. But like, as opposed to the woods. But it's like you can do it with the lights on.
Oh, yeah. In fact, that's funny. I took a parapsychology class with Lloyd Arbach, and it was amazing. And one of the things he talks about is the green-eyed cameras in the dark is just an effect for TV, which is fine effect. But, yeah, I
one of the best spirit box responses I ever got was lights on in the room.
One of the most terrifying things at my apartment was pulling out of my garage midday. And, I can't thank you so much for your story, because I think people go out I have so many friends that keep saying, I want to see something. I want to see something bad. And it's like, you can't put that.
I don't get that aspect of the, it's almost like the, I guess it makes sense when you consider what, society is into right now. Like
Right.
that dark tourism, I guess is what they call it, of like people want to go places where horrible things have happened, and people like love driving by murder houses, things like that, and serial killers are so popular, and all that kind of stuff. It's just like I don't it's too much. Like I can't even watch boxing.
Oh, well, yeah.
Or like MMA, because it's like real blood. Like that doesn't. I've always just been too sensitive to that stuff.
Well, it's interesting because there is a great show on Netflix called Mindhunter.
I just finished season 2 of it, and I hate that show.
I couldn't turn it off.
I hate it.
Haven't you
I
finished
couldn't
it?
turn it off. It's such a good show, but I hated what it did to my mind.
Well, you know what? That's the thing, because I don't have trouble sleeping, and I kept having trouble sleeping, and it's the underlying darkness of that where there's no light.
There's nothing.
There's nothing, and it's almost like, it's not a comparison, but there's a show called Succession that everybody's crazy about on HBO, and I'm like, these are all bad people. This is like watching the Trump family, but more interesting, and I don't want to see all bad. I need a good story. I need
That's why I love the show Dark.
I haven't seen it. Okay.
It's in German. You have to watch with the subtitles. Because if you do you have to do subtitles because the acting is too good, and if you do dubs, it just ruins it. Right. So you have to read it, but it's so good. There's 2 seasons. It's about time travel and so many cool things. It was recommended to me by multiple people, and finally I was like, fine, I'll watch it, and then I loved it. It's so good, but it's a really fascinating show that also messes with your mind a little bit, but not in such an intense way like Mindhunter does.
And I think when you have to read, you're a little, and I also want to say, one thing I totally agree with is, and I've been told this several times, the tarot cards are a very nice in-between. You're not making a direct contact with something. You're sort of communicating through, and I think that's true. So I think it's really good when you take your cards with you. Yeah, and it was really, it was almost mind-blowing. Like what was happening with the one card pulls. They're so awesome. And I was just like, even because no one else there had any experience with paranormal investigation. And I'm by no way an expert at all when it comes to paranormal investigations. And like they were like that, I was really glad that was their introduction to it when they saw these cards, when I pulled this card, because I wouldn't just do it alone. I'd be like, okay, let's pull a card and see what we're going to get. And then it was just boom, 0, 1, 2. It was so cool. Wow. It was really, really fun. They wanted me to go back to the property in October. That date got pushed. I wasn't going to go back because Carolyn wasn't going to be there. And I wouldn't feel safe out there if she wasn't home. Right. But later in the year, I might go back. We're going to film some more. I do have to confront my fear at some point because I no longer want to have a mountain house. My dream was like all my dreams crumbled in like a split second of like having a Lake Arrowhead mountain house that was beautiful and I could be in nature. I'm like, I've done multiple card readings where I've been told I have to get back outside. Well, that's funny because I've always dreamed of the tiny house where I could sleep on the roof, but when it comes and it's dark, that's a different kind of trust that I think we need to figure out. Yeah, and I've also been recently introduced to like potential ways to close portals. I was just going to say, just when you said I've been recently introduced to, I was going to go, the idea of living with someone else. It was so funny. Jessica was telling me like my twin soul was coming, and I'm talking to her. She's giving me a reading, and she goes, and your twin soul is coming. And I go, well, she goes, I don't know if you think you're ready for it. I go, well, I don't know if I am. I got a support system. I got good friends. I go, wow, I'm talking about this like it's cancer. Yeah. Your twins, I got people I can call. I got a savings again. It should be okay. That's so funny. Yeah, I'm glad you introduced us because she's amazing. Yeah, she's great. I had a good time meeting her, and we did each other's podcasts, and it was like instantly we're like, oh, this is the network here. Yeah, and it's getting a little bigger. You got to Phil, get in your network. But she's also, and I do sort of agree. This is a conversation for our next show that we do together. She's that we are all powerful. We shouldn't be afraid of anything, and everything is okay. We can overcome. Which I kind of get that in that I believe even with demons. If you're that's about taking care of your own energy, protecting yourself, finding people like Tommy who get you on the right. You know what I mean? Eventually, yeah. Hopefully we break away from what that is. But I don't know that I feel there's no fear, or that maybe that is just like swimming and encountering a shark and we're just not familiar with it. But I don't feel...
I mean, I think fear is healthy to some degree.
I do too. And I think even religion teaches us it's us and God. No, there's a lot in between.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I think it is one of those things, and Carolyn would speak to it better than me, but and we know this with other paranormal experiences, there's really nothing like experiencing something to know it. And we can intellectually believe something and have sympathy and do our best to build empathy for that. But until we've been through it sometimes, it's impossible to really understand like just how scary a moment like that can be.
Every cell in my body when we got into this place and I realized what was going on was lit. Like it had never been before. Like it's in a weird way. It's being in your body in the moment. You can't. There's nothing like that. You are in the moment. You are there. You are in your body. Well, there was such a feeling that I thought, okay, you know what I've learned in a haunted place. When I feel this again, I'm done.
Yeah. That's
when I go.
Yeah. It's you're making me realize that like. In that moment where I thought I was going to die, I've never felt more alive. Mm-hmm. And
that's the adrenaline that people get stuck on.
And I am not looking for that.
To be alive, yeah.
Not that form.
Right,
I'm not looking for that form of the adrenaline. I know. And it's, and you know, Tommy didn't just wake up Tommy one day. I mean,
he had a lifetime.
And, you know, there's things that, you know, he won't even, I wasn't able to get out of him about like, you know, what led to him being able to be, you know, where he's at now.
Right.
So, you know, that's one thing. That's one thing.
He does a wonderful, I think it's wonderful and interesting thing where you kind of always go, wait, I'm not sure. And he backs off because I think he's not about, if this is your life lesson, it's what it is. But also, it's almost like I feel like Tommy is famous for, before anyone has a horrible experience, they remember Tommy going, I wouldn't do that. right before we're all doing a fairy spell, I hear, not doing it. Yeah. And I was like, really? But you go, oh, come on. So that I always think those are Tommy's most famous for. I wouldn't do that. And but he doesn't push. That's your lesson, whatever it is. But yeah, it's, I don't know. We're in the unknown, but you know, it's still it's still fascinating.
Yeah, and you know, I look forward to being able to go out into nature again. I mean, I go hiking and stuff like that still, but never like in remote areas.
I wouldn't go alone in remote, but who knows? We'll see.
I'll get back to being able to. I had a reading from the angel card deck.
Oh, nice.
And the green man card showed up, like in my present. It was green card, and I audibly said, "Fuck you!" Ah! I was like, "No, I won't go into nature."
We're gonna start you with a little chia pet.
Yeah,
and then we'll get you a little
I just bought some cacti and some succulents.
Oh, good.
So I'm going to be communicating with plants soon.
I think that's a great thing in communicating with trees and stuff, just to know that there's a... Well, I can't say enough. Thank you for your story, Ryan.
Yeah, well, this was fun. And I, you know, if nothing else, hopefully people can learn from my mistake.
Right. Don't go in...
When they say don't be on the property alone by yourself.
Yeah.
Don't be alone on the property by yourself, especially at night. I mean, that was the caveat to the rule, like especially at night.
Listen to people.
And I was alone on that property by myself for 4 minutes the whole time I was there in 5 days. And that's when it got me.
Yeah, avalanche. Oh my God. Everybody, Ryan, tell everybody where to find you, where to find your podcast,
Well, they can find me at ryansingercomedy.com. You can follow me on Instagram at rysing, RYSING. And I got Me and Paranormal You, which is a podcast I've been doing for a long time. I also have a new podcast about witchcraft and also some paranormal stuff. It's called This Is Where the Magic Happens with my buddy Angela Lovell, who's got so many crazy stories.
Wow.
So we have a really good time doing that. So if you're interested in like, you know, the occult or witchcraft or, you know, the oldest religion in the world, you check that podcast out as well. And and so, you know, I'm pretty much in town. I'm not really hitting the road much lately. I think I'll be in Eureka in October. I don't know, not sure when this drops, but they can.
I think we'll do October. I might make this the Halloween episode because it's
okay. So yeah, but my schedule's available on ryansingercomedy.com.
Great.
Cool.
Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. If you can leave me 5 stars or dots or whatever happens there, wherever you're listening. Thanks to Mike Flynn at Uno Rising, who has been pulling some rabbits out of the hat when I screw up my podcast. Thanks, everybody. I hope to see you on the road. karenrontowski.com, paranormalkaren.com. Have a great, good luck sleeping tonight.